Hi, I'm Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that focuses on musicians, authors, and interesting people. We like to say we're making a difference one artist at a time. So sit back, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. My guest this time on the Someone You Should Know podcast is an internet radio star and an accomplished author and poet. She's also a recovery coach, a nutritional health coach, and she was just inducted into the Internet Radio Hall of Fame in 2019. You can basically call her a Jane of all trades, and she's also known as the Jersey Jewel. Will you please welcome my friend, Geri Petito. Geri, welcome aboard.
Hey, Rick, how are you, sweetheart? I'm honored to be on your show. This is so cool.
I'm thrilled to have you on my show because, I was on your show in December, and that was fun, too. Geri, welcome. Let's first talk about your humble beginnings as far as that goes. Let's just talk about you growing up and how you got involved with drugs and everything.
So, you know what? I think it's a good time. Let me read a poem first. There's a reason why.
Oh, sure.
This one is called My Story.
Okay.
So this will tell a little bit about it, and then I will talk about everything that went on. Okay,
very good. Let's hear it.
All right. So this poem is called My Story, and it'll give you a little bit of an idea, and then we'll talk about what happened.
Very good. All right, very good.
I thought I'd share my story in a more poetic way to give you guys some insight on what I want to say. I grew up in a crazy Italian home where boundaries did not exist. No such thing as personal space. As I grew up, I started to resist. My sign is a Pisces, and it really holds true. I'm artistic and curious with all that I do. My heart on my sleeve is where it was worn. That good and that bad fish always made me feel torn. Everything possible there was to explore. My bucket list was huge. Every day I wanted more. It got me into trouble, from art school into drugs. Traveling all over the world, I even tasted some bugs. Getting pregnant, then married, and of course came divorce. I lived myself unmanageable, challenged everything with force. Outside the box is where I belonged, but I always made right whatever I wronged. I fought structure and rules and never regretted. I only worried when needed. Small stuff, never sweated. Being self-employed too young and making too much money, it got me into trouble. Now life was not so funny. Being so young and being so sick, I woke up and thought I need help quick. So I stopped all the crap and begged God to hear me. He saved me that day, and he decided to spare me. He saved my life and gave me my calling. Now go help others, the ones that are falling. My entire life since I was young was finding the broken who I was among. 25 years later, God said, write our book. I smiled and thought, okay, now I know this is what it took. I'll never regret my choices because I'm the person I am today. I'll always pay it forward if I can help in any way. Health coaching's my passion on my radio shows too. I love helping others. It's what I'm made to do. My life-changing choice that I had once made, going on 33 years now, guys, my debt has been paid.
Wonderful. That is, not only is that excellent, but it actually parallels me in many ways too. I've never done drugs, but my vice was my ego. My ego had gotten so big when I was working for the All-Star Radio Network, and I was talking to all these different celebrities, and it was, I was basically dropping names and everything, and people were just getting tired of hearing it. And I got to a point where I was listening to my radio shows in the car, as far as I'd, air check them and listen to them in the car, and I was never happy. If I blew one break in a 5-hour show, I was just inconsolable. So I had to talk with Jesus also. I sat down, I said, God, I need some help here. I cannot handle my ego anymore. And it was like I heard a resounding, stop helping yourself and start helping others. So the last 10 or 12 years of my career was all about that. I was just the moderator or host of my show, and my callers, my guests, and the music was the stars of the show. And I was just the lucky guy who got to ask the questions. That's basically what I'm doing here with the Someone You Should Know podcast. It is always to help others, just like you. I'm lifting people up just like you are. And so we've got a real parallel there. And I wanted to share that with you.
You wouldn't seem that way to me. You wouldn't seem that way to me, so full of yourself. I don't see you as of ever being that person. Okay?
I've changed over 12 years, or the last 12 years or so, because I've been at this for 44. And this is just, I've been a much better person. I sound better on the air. I'm much more relaxed. I realize that people make mistakes. I've heard people, fluff lines here and there. And I really like the fact that out of the ashes comes my help, and out of your ashes comes a wonderful book that you've got called I'm Not an Addict, Just an Ass. You got to tell me about this book and who it's directed to.
Okay. So Jesus is my Lord and Savior. And this is what happened. So I'm going to share something with you way back in the day that made me start using drugs. And then we'll get to this book.
Okay, fine.
So I was only a teenager, maybe 14 years old, but I did not look like a teenager. And I'm telling you that for a reason. Mm-hmm. I was very big busted. I was a New York girl, moved to New Jersey. I was tough, All right. Well, I had a neighbor who was moving away to another state. We lived together on the same road. And he approached me one day when he saw me hanging out. And he put his hands down my pants, put his hands up my shirt, and said, blah, 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 all sexual things. And this is what I said to him, Rick. I said, you've got 10 seconds to get your hands away from me and get away from me, or my father will kill you with his bare hands and end up in jail because of you. So he went and walked away. Well, I knew then, even back then, because I'll be 63. So even back then, I knew I couldn't tell my father, but I had to tell someone. Mm-hmm. So I told a family member. We all lived on the same road, and he approached him and said, good thing you're leaving. Long story short, I struggled with, not that he touched me. I was a tough kid. That I could, honest to God, that never was in my mind. I couldn't tell my father. And today I would tell girls, always tell your parents and always call the cops. It was very different back then. Yeah, my father would have killed him. So I always struggled with the fact, did I let a child molester go? I couldn't deal with that. So I'm going to fast forward to a few years back, and then we'll get to my book.
Okay.
God is so good, because I was only 57 years old at the time, and we had a family party, and his family is very close to a family member of mine, and they were invited, and I didn't realize that. Well, he approached me at the end of the party, and he tried to kiss my lips, and now he's 80 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. So I turned my head, and he kissed my cheek and smacked my butt. And I laughed, and this is what I said. I said, so you're still a pervert? And he went, so what? And I said, you know what? God gave me a great gift today. So that's why I'm not going to blow the horn on you and call the cops now and hit you and call your wife. I'm going to leave it be, because you're an 80-year-old man. You're just a dirty old man who pretends he's a Christian. Mm-hmm. He sings in his church, blah, blah, blah. I laughed and smiled, and you know what I said? Thank you, Lord, for this gift. I needed him to do that, because then God said to me, you did not let a child molester go. He would not have been interested in you at 57 if he was a child molester. Mm-hmm. That's why I said I didn't look like a kid. He was only in his 20s. So God gave me that gift after all those years.
Wow.
So now the book.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful for you to be able to do that.
I needed that. So now my book. So 2016, I'm laying in bed and I hear a voice. I kid you not. Write your book. So I smiled and I said, all right, Lord, you want me to write the book? I'll write it. I didn't know why I was writing it. So I wrote the book in 3 weeks. I didn't even tell my family I was writing it yet. Nothing. I wrote the book in 3 weeks, and I believe God wrote it, because there was no way I could have written this book in 3 weeks. Yeah. And I called a friend of mine, because I hand wrote it. And I said, you have to help me get this on the computer, blah, blah, blah. And her uncle was a publisher back in the day. And she said, Geri, we're going to send it to a ton of publishers, because it could take years. They may like it. They may not. I said, oh, no. God wrote the book. He said, Simon and Schuster, we got to send it there. So she laughed. She did.
All right.
Only Simon and Schuster, she did.
Yeah.
And I said, attach your stuff with it, so when they call, you'll be attached with me, because I'm terrible with technology. Uh-huh. He's like, okay. 5 days later, Rick, I'm on a 3-way with my friend and Simon and Schuster.
Jeez.
They loved the book and published it. Now that's why I know it was God.
Absolutely. That's a great story. That's a fabulous story.
And this is why the book was written. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I have 2 cousins, 2 of my favorite cousins. One of them I knew drank a lot, but I didn't know the extent of it until a horrendous thing happened. And the other one, I never knew what was going on. And I could say this. He's gay. He lives in Florida. Now we all grew up together. And when I was going through what I went, he's in my book. As a kid, he never left my side. He owns a piece of my heart. He's like mine. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know it. One day, I get a call from him. He's on the beach in Florida, taking the sun. And he's like, read me some of your book, He calls me John. I'm reading him some of my book, not knowing he's doing crystal meth. while he's listening to me. For years he was doing it. I never knew. The gay community does a lot of crystal meth. Well, guess what? I told him, your book is the first book I'm going to autograph, right? A few days later, I get my box of books. I message his phone. I'm signing your book. His sister calls me and says, John, we need you tonight. I'm on my way home from Florida with him. And she said, he's lost it. He's gone, mentally done. We didn't know. So I had to get him into rehab. He's doing great now. And this was in 2016. Thank you, God. And then another family member who was passed out from drinking so much for 2 days. His daughter comes home from work to climb over him to go check on her sick mom who had the flu. Found her dead in the bathroom while he's passed out. So this book was for both of them, and it got me to help both of them, and they're doing okay.
Wonderful.
So I had to listen to God. I had to.
Oh, absolutely.
And I laughed, but I had to listen to him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this book, by the way, I'd love everyone who has a person who they think might benefit from some good straight talk to go down to the show notes and order a couple dozen copies of the book, because you've got family members that really need some help. This might be a good thing. Go down to the show notes. I'll provide that and a bunch of her socials coming up a little bit later in the show. But that'll be down there. But I want everyone to get a copy of that book who you think would really benefit. And the other thing that really got me from this book was the fact that you are very good. You have an affinity to wax poetic verse. When did you become a poet?
So, all right. I became a poet when I was in grammar school.
Oh, seriously?
I'm an artist. I went to art school, and poetry, I guess, is just part of my creative personality. I have no idea, just like singers, just like songwriters, right? Just like with what you do, talking. I mean, I have no idea. God just gave me these gifts, just like he gives everybody a gift. You know, we have to use, and I have a poem in here called Utilizing Gifts and Talents, because people don't understand they're all born with something. And it's up to us to figure out what it is and then utilize it and thank God for it, right?
Mm-hmm. And you got a poem. Let's go ahead and read that.
Okay, this one is called Utilizing Gifts and Talents. And Rick, this is why I read this one a lot during shows, because even after this interview with you and me, and then, you know, the one I did with you, people will message me and say, Geri, I wish I could sing like your guest. I wish I could write poetry like you. I wish I could do what they're. And I try to let everybody know they're all born with something incredible. So listen, if you guys are struggling with your self-worth, please listen to the words to this poem, okay?
Okay, right. The floor is yours, Geri.
We are born with talents. We are born with drive, with different gifts to help us thrive. I knew early on I was born to draw and paint, to also write poetry, and to talk without restraint. Our gifts and talents should all be used. God's gift to us, not be abused. We can go far in life for sure, using our gifts to go on tour. All our talents should be used to create ourselves and more, but then our job's to share them, to even up the score. You see, in life, what's needed is not just for ourselves. Once our gifts are mastered, take them off the shelves. A living we can make by spreading them around, not just for the money, but to spread a peaceful sound. Don't take for granted the gifts you're given. Go out and spread the joy. Our gifts are not to be held back for us to self-destroy. Put your efforts forth. Do not hesitate. All your talents, my friend, are never second rate. Never hold them back or you will surely die. Maybe not in body, but your soul will cry. Our gifts were made to share, our talents made to soar. So go through life enlightened, and then you can roar. Be proud of who you are. Be happy you're alive. Once again, my friend, your gifts will help you thrive. By putting efforts forth, not keeping them at bay, your name, Big Rick, will live forever, baby, forever and a day. So go through life excited for what you sure can give. To yourself and others is our reason to live. Our grave will be quite lonely, but our legacy lives on. So make sure people smile with the breaking dawn.
Jeez, that is so well done. So
Thank
well
you.
done. When I started doing the research on this, I had no idea she was this talented. She is very talented. And that's one of the reasons why she wound up winning the 2019 induction into the Internet Radio Hall of Fame, which we're going to talk about in just a bit. But I'm so dumbfounded on how good you are. I want to talk about this next facet of your life, this many facets of your diamond is recovery coach and nutritional health coaches. We're in the new year here. What's the first thing that listeners should do when they want to make a change in their recovery process or eat better?
So this is first and foremost, guys, give it to God. And I'm not kidding. Okay. First of all my services to you are free. Rick will have all my social medias. You can reach out to me. I will never charge you if you need health advice. If you're sick, I cured myself of 2 cancers over 25 years ago, naturally. Okay.
Okay.
And I was very sick, guys. So listen to me. I want to help you. So first and foremost, I'm going to share something with you. You have to get rid of all sugar. That's the first thing. You can't heal until that happens first. Sugar is not just sugar anymore. It's now high fructose corn syrup. Our brain thinks you're giving it cocaine. Yep. Okay? It doesn't know the difference. So I'm going to tell you about a can of Coke and a can of Pepsi. So I've traveled all over the world, Rick, back in the day since I was in my 20s on health tours with Lenox Hill Hospital. And we're in Russia for a month. I've had machine guns pointed at me. It was so cool. I wasn't scared. And even in China at the wall, I had machine gun pointed at me. I was like, this is so cool. Okay, I'm crazy. Anyway, I learned in my 20s about the amount of sugar in a can of Coke because Japan just brought over their first McDonald's. So, of course, all the Americans were like, we got to go see a Japanese, McDonald's. My cousin took a sip of Coke and spit it out and said, something's wrong with this. And the tour guide cracked up and she said, no. She said, your country allows the 9 1/4 teaspoons of high fructose corn syrup in 1 can of Coke. We only allow them to put 1 teaspoon of real sugar. So when these companies want to go, Starbucks and everything, I've been to Starbucks in Australia, behind the scenes, everywhere. They have to change their formulas to their countries' good standards. So sugar, first and foremost. You guys get rid of sugar, reach out to me. Okay?
I'll have to do that because I really and truly have been... Like I say, here's my culprit right here.
Please get rid of it because every addict is addicted to sugar, so they're really not clean. That's why I was able. Oh, I want to share that about my book cover.
Go. Okay.
I'm not an addict. I'm just an ass. And then I'd rather be a smart ass than a dumb ass. And my picture, my face is on a donkey.
Okay.
All right. Well, I was judged by so many Christians because of the word ass and talking about God, even a pastor who asked for my forgiveness. And he's a friend of mine now and we've interviewed each other many times. I love this guy. And ass is in the Bible.
It's in the Bible. Yeah, it is in the Bible. Yeah.
Over 40 times.
As a young child, I was using that to my advantage.
Okay. It is in the Bible. So
yeah, it is. It is.
We made it a curse word. It was not. It means donkey. So that's funny.
Absolutely. Good for you, Geri. Good for you. We're going to continue with the interview with the Jersey Jewel in just a second. I want to say thanks for tuning into the Someone You Should Know podcast. We're available on the World Wide Web at Someoneyoushouldknowpodcast.com. There you're going to find our recent news, our archive of past episodes, and a whole lot more. And if you happen to be visiting for the very first time, we invite you to go ahead and leave a review on the bottom of the very first page. Just go down to the bottom and just leave us a review. We appreciate that. Now, according to Buzzsprout, the service that shares us to all the different streaming platforms, we're incredibly blessed. 1,900 cities in 85 countries around the world, and we'd like to thank a couple of new ones. Manahawkin, New Jersey, Bensonhurst, Long Island, Rantoul, Illinois, and a big shout out to Frankfurt, Germany. There is someone that has listened to nearly every episode. I don't know your name, but I want to say vielen Dank. Okay. The Someone You Should Know podcast, heard wherever quality streaming audio is available. Thanks for listening.
Stay tuned. The Someone You Should Know podcast with Rick Anthony. We'll be right back after this short message.
Are you a business owner in need of a professional voice service? Well, look no further. Manzi Voice Services offers a wide variety of voice services and media production who will elevate your brand. Our team of experienced professionals will work closely with you to bring your vision to life, providing top-notch audio and video production. Whether you're looking for a voice for your commercial or a full-scale media production, Manzi Voice Services has got you covered. If you're looking for professional voice, then look no further. Contact Manzi Voice Services via Facebook or email manzivoiceservices@gmail.com. @gmail.com. We look forward to collaborating with you to facilitate your future needs.
You're listening to the Someone You Should Know podcast with your host and moderator, Rick Anthony. And now back to Rick with today's very special guest interview.
We're speaking with internet radio sensation Geri Petito. How did you get the transition to internet radio and become such a star, dear?
So when my book was published in 2016, Doc G, we call him, Gene Perro, the original owner of Hamilton Radio, reached out to me on Facebook and said, we've got to do an interview with you. So I said, sure. So I got interviewed on Hamilton Radio on a DJ Danny show. And he said, you have such a great radio voice. You've got to come along. And I laughed and said, no, that's not my thing. No. I also owned a poker league. I'm also a poker dealer. So I was having so much fun with that. Okay, blah, blah, blah. It was called Ms. Night Owl Poker, and it was in Mercer County for like 10 years. So anyway, I said, no, he kept bothering me. And then I laughed. I had to laugh, Rick, because I said, what, am I crazy? I was in trouble every day of my life, every report card. I am not kidding you. Talks too much. I was put out in the hallways during class, right? Mm-hmm. And, back then we used to have the seat that was attached to the desk, the one piece in school. They would have one outside for the bad kids. I wasn't bad. They all loved me, the teachers. I really wasn't bad. But I would talk too much. And then I'd be yelling hello to everybody going to the bathroom. So they'd be like, get back in here. So I said, I have to do this. And I prayed about it. And I just sensed God said, this is your calling if you want to really help people. And that's how it happened.
You get a chance to meet a whole lot more people. You don't know who's on the other end. And it's great. It's great to see that. In a nutshell, how would you describe the Geri Petito show? If someone's turning in for the very first time, one of my listeners to say, I'm going to check this out. What would they hear? Best way to describe it.
All right. So that's a little tough anymore because I do so much. So at one point I was on 5 different networks.
Okay.
So my topics are all different.
Okay.
When I first started out, it was mostly about health and recovery on Hamilton Radio.
Okay.
But then I was asked to be on Remember Then Radio, and it was music. So then I'm an oldies, doo-wop, and Elvis girl. That's me. And I'm only going to be 63, but most of the hits came out in 61, 2, and 3 that I grew up loving. Me oldies.
Too. We're the same age, so yeah, there you go.
Okay. So now I would have described it different then, but now this is what I could honestly say about my show, guys. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got up and coming artists, indie artists that are as young as 8 years old that are incredible. Mm-hmm. It's got authors. It's got up and coming, songwriters, right? Poets. It has anyone, actors, okay, who wants to get noticed or who is a legend. I've interviewed, thank you, God, so many legends. I can't even tell you. Don K. Reed, before he passed, I got to interview him. I got to interview Elvis Presley's nurse. I got to interview Priscilla Presley's son.
Oh, geez. Okay.
And I got to interview Elvis Aaron Presley Jr., who is his son. I got court documents before the interview.
Jeez. Okay.
Okay. Mel Carter. I mean, all of them. Larry Chance, right? So everybody listening, go to the Geri Petito Show YouTube channel. A lot of them are there. Mm-hmm. But I got to interview so many legends. So to even describe my show right now, Rick, it's just a mixture of everything. I'll never say no.
Yeah,
I'll never say no to anyone up and coming. Yeah. Never.
That's very much like this show. So if you like this show, you love her show. And I'm going to include the link to it in the show notes. How many times a week is your show? Is it just once a week or what?
No, some days I do 3 shows.
Oh, dear God.
It's gotten crazy. So I do Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays on the different networks. Like WBNN. I want to mention that because WBNN is by phone only. It's out of Lagos, Nigeria. Uh-huh. They found me on Hamilton Radio years ago. Okay. And they're the ones that really got me noticed for the Hall of Fame.
Wonderful. Okay. Very good.
I broke a record last month with almost 25 million listeners around the world with them.
Jeez.
So
great.
They are the ones that really, truly got me noticed for that. But if it wasn't for Hamilton Radio that started me, I wouldn't even be doing any of this.
Yes, that's fabulous. It's nice. And the good Lord directed all your paths there. How about that? Yep. put it in God's hands. That's what I was told also, as far as that goes. Anytime that there's any struggles, my late wife, before she passed, she got sicker and sicker each day. She wound up passing in 2018 from lupus. And anytime we had a struggle or something like that, it was always told, just put it in God's hands. God's got it. God's got it. Now, here's the cool thing about internet radio. It is so different from traditional radio in the sense that Geri's able to leverage all of her special talents and not being told by a corporate programmer what you can and can't do as far as that goes. You can't play this record, you can't play that particular artist, or you can't say this particular thing. You can't like this particular sponsor or whatever because, we've got that sponsor. Let's talk about how that's benefited you as far as that goes. You've just had the flexibility to do whatever, basically, right?
Okay. On all my networks, except for one, which I will not mention, that I had to leave because they did try to tell me who to interview, who not to interview, if they didn't like the person, or I said, it's not happening. So goodbye. But on my other ones, yes, it's been amazing. But now I got to share something with you. Think about this for a minute with what you said with internet radio, right? So Don K. Reed, think about that. Cousin Brucey and Don K. Reed, right?
Yep.
So in the tri-state area, I was a New Yorker. Now I'm in Jersey for 50 years. But they were the guys on radio. The whole world knows them. And there was no internet radio.
Right.
And until Don died, he was still doing radio on internet. So he even transitioned.
Yeah, that's right. Because a lot of, to be honest with you, sadly, a lot of corporate programmers view us as too old as far as that goes. Let's talk about how you select guests for your show. As far as that goes, you and I have a selection process. We try to get everyone that submits it, but sometimes they're just not a good fit. But in your case, how do you make your selection? Do you have a team of people to help you out, or is it just you?
I will not allow a team of people. I'm sorry. Even my ads, you see my silly photo ads. I take the photos, I print them physically because I'm an artist and I make my pretty pages and I do everything myself. I have a lot of friends that will. John Terlizzi, I got to give him a shout out.
John, we love you, John.
John. And, he'll connect me with people like with me and you. And he'll say, Geri, there were only, I want to say 3 times, and I won't mention, that I had to say no. Okay. And there were reasons why. So other than that, for the most part, because I'm able to do sometimes 2-3 shows a day, 3 times a week, I have the opportunities to get more guests in. So I don't like to say no, but 3 times I had to. And so what I do is I have like different agents that will say, okay, like Ellie Ivory, she's amazing, Ellie Ivy, and she'll send me guests. Here's the thing. I will only do a little bit of research just to make sure it's on the up and up. Don K. Reed gave me some advice, and I'm going to share this with you. I was only nervous with 3 interviews. One was Elvis Aaron Presley Jr., Elvis Presley's nurse, and Don K. Reed. I called Don prior to the interview and I said, do you want to send me some questions? And he's like, Geri, stop it. You don't do that with anyone else, right? I go, no. He goes, the reason I love your shows is because you do what I do. Everything is off the cuff. He said, you don't even really check people's resumes. I said, not really. They'll send me a paragraph. I tell them, don't send me a lot. And he said, you're going to do the same with me. I said, but it's you, Don, He's like, yeah, Geri, stop. And within 5 minutes, it was so comfortable. So I prefer to have the shock factor with my interviews. So I'll just check a little bit out. And so far, every interview I've ever done was on the up and up and great, except, like I said, 3 times for real reasons I had to say no.
Yeah, that's good. When did you start the internet radio show?
2016, right after my...
Okay, so it's been going on for quite a while. Very good. Very good. And she is in the Hall of Fame, folks. How about that? What about memorable or challenging moments in your broadcast since that time frame?
So, yes, there were a couple. And it had to do with Elvis because when I interviewed Priscilla's son, I was told I'd get the interview, but I can't even really mention Elvis. And I said, okay. And that was a tough one for me, I have to say. And then, of course, Elvis's nurse, who's now in my life forever, and keep her in prayer, guys. She's in her late 90s and she's not doing great. Okay. But I talked to Marion a lot. And before we got to be friends, she said to me, now, Geri, don't ask me one personal thing about Elvis on air. I said, I would never disrespect him. Mm-hmm. So I was very nervous and challenged with that interview.
Oh, I can understand.
Okay. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're very limited to what you can say.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there have been times where I've been told, all right, Geri, we want to give you this interview, but do not bring up this, and this. And I had to make little notes. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I said, okay, not this, not this, not this. That's when it's a little challenging, mm-hmm. but that's not often, Rick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like even, okay, I'll give you an example of a fun, really funny interview. It was so cute. So, you know, I've interviewed, like I said, a lot of these legends from back in the day with their music and mm-hmm. all, you know, and Sugar, Honey, mm-hmm. okay, Rob Dante. I'm giggling through the whole interview going, come on, sugar, come on, honey, give me some of your sugar. And he's laughing and it was great. So I get to be myself for the most part with all my interviews, even with these incredible legends. Mm-hmm. But there were times, like I said, you know, those few moments where I'm like, uh-oh, you know, am I going to be able to do this? You know, this is a little challenging. Gosh.
It's amazing you mentioned Rod Dante because he was one of the very first people I interviewed when I was at the All-Star Radio Network. This was like 98, 99. And what a great guy. And that was really cool. Very, very cool. In the cities around the world that are listening right now, there is an aspiring young next generation Geri Petito. What advice would you give an aspiring internet radio host that's looking to start their own show?
Okay, I have advice.
What is that?
Okay, so because I've been on so many networks and around so many different hosts, mm-hmm. do me a favor, guys, and this is very, very important, okay? Keep it clean. Be one of the exceptions. Keep it clean. Okay? Don't bring up politics and religion, but always give praise to God. Mm-hmm. That's not religion to me.
Yeah.
And I am involved with a political thing, which I'll tell you about, and there's a reason why. It's nonpartisan. Mm. So don't get involved with the two sides. Don't do any of that.
Right.
Don't curse on air. And don't think you're better than anyone else. Because here's the thing. Even that up-and-coming artist, that author, you may think, stupid book or blah, blah. Please give them an opportunity.
Absolutely. Give
all of them an opportunity, just like you would like an opportunity.
Yeah, they're all perfecting their craft, and that's just it as far as it goes. And there's also a phrase that you have that I think would probably be apropos. Let's hear that one.
Okay. So the reason why I think this is important is because when we're trying to recover, guys, we're being, I want to say, misled in a lot of ways. My book will show you why I've overcome it. I changed my life. I'm not telling anyone not to go to meetings. If that's your support system, please go. Okay, it didn't work for me because I'm not going to stand up in front of a room and say, hi, I'm Geri, I'm an addict, and this disease forever, I'm powerless over. No, you're not powerless over anything. And that's what I want you to understand. So faking it until you make it is not okay with me. So listen to the words of this poem, okay?
All right, this is face it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it is a term heard so much. I don't really agree. It's living with a crutch. Not just for addiction, all life lessons, my friend. That's a sad in life to live until the end. I'd rather go by a saying more real. Face it till you make it in spite of how you feel. We got to grow up, put our past behind. In spite of our hurts, there's greatness to find. I'd rather go through life smiling every day, holding up my chin, all good things to say. Positive thinking and actions likewise throw out a force up into the skies. What we project is what we will earn. Karma is real. We each have a turn. Your thoughts are wired to make you think. With what you do can make you sink. Keep all your thoughts uplifting and real. Feeding your mind crap destroys how you feel. So don't put out crap. It comes back to bite. Stand up real tall and just fight the fight. I promise you this, if you face all your fears, it may be quite scary, but will add to your years. One day you'll be happy with who you now are. Just look at me. I've really come far. I look in the mirror and like what I see, but most important, I really love me. And guys,
that is really good.
You're supposed to love yourself.
Absolutely.
That's not an ego thing. God created you out of love. Love yourself.
Very good. Very good. I want to make sure that everyone checks out your show, checks out your books, checks out everything you got. Give us a link to your socials, and we'll go ahead and put those down in the show notes.
Okay. So my website is www.geripetito.com. Then the YouTube channel is the Geri Petito Show YouTube channel.
All right.
And then I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
I'm also Geri Petito, my private page, the regular page.
Facebook page.
And then the Geri Petito Show page as well. I also have a group there about health, so they could reach out to me and I can add them to the group.
Okay, very good. Geri, it's been an absolute delight to have you on the show. And I got to ask, what have you got going on for 2024 for the show that we should know about?
Okay, so I've got a lot of cool things already. I've got, oh my gosh, a waiting list. So I've got some surprises, okay, for 2024. But what I want to say to everybody right now is, unfortunately, a lot of these incredible legends are passing. Go into my YouTube channel, because a lot of them that have passed, I've done the incredible interviews with them. Larry Chance is one. Go check them out, please, guys. Okay, we want to just honor them, because without them, we wouldn't have the music we have today.
Right. I totally agree with you, Geri, because I was going through a bunch of my stuff here, but someone had asked for a bunch of IDs that I had of people and such like that. And I realized he's dead, she's dead, he's dead. It's like, and who knows? There's no guarantee. I mean, you and I are the same age. There's no guarantee we're going to make it to 65. But
right.
Well, I tell you one thing. It's been an absolute delight to have you on my show, and thank you for having me on your show. And you're just an absolute delight. The Jersey Jewel, that's definitely her name, my friend Geri Petito. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you. I'm honored. Thank you, Rick. It was amazing spending time with you.
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for tuning in to this episode of the Someone You Should Know podcast. Before I go, I want to share some friends of mine who also have a podcast. Give them a listen, and I invite you to check us out next time right here on the Someone You Should Know podcast. All right, here's my friends right now from the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast.
Hey, everybody, it's Ray the Roadie.
And this is Hollywood Mike
with the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast, coming to you from the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum on Route 66 in Joliet, Illinois.
Where once a week we are interviewing local musicians and singer-songwriters. And the podcast itself covers a wide range of topics, including, but not limited to, the history of rock and roll in Chicago, the current state of the scene, and the challenges and opportunities facing musicians today.
So join us every Tuesday for a new exciting episode of the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast.